We have seen that the highest is being offered to Arjuna. And that too right in the beginning of the discourse. This part of chapter 2 is less about the dissolution of the disciple's ego and more about the resolution of the master's love. Sri Krishna begins by telling of the highest to Arjuna in the hope that the highest, being the highest, would suffice. He tells him of the absolute reality, the only truth, and how that in the truth nothing ends because nothing ever begins. But that seems too much for Arjuna to grasp, rather accept. Sri Krishna then tries to instruct Arjuna via worldly knowledge. That the world all around you, Arjuna, every moment there are millions of beginnings and millions of ends. All beginnings are essentially similar to each other, and so are all ends. How can you grieve over a particular end when there is no particularity at all? The same thing that is ending right now can rightfully be said to be beginning this very moment or any other moment. Yes, there are beginnings and ends, but nothing in particular that begins or ends. The one thing that begins and ends is essentially not separable from any other thing that begins and ends. And what ends finds its beginning in some other way, in some other form, in the plane of the material. Nothing mystical about it. So again, there is no way you can grieve over a particular being because there are no particular beings. All beings are like waves in the ocean. They rise from the ocean, they fall into the ocean, they are inseparable from the ocean. Even when they are rising from the ocean, there is actually just a change in form, otherwise they are still the ocean. Even when they disappear, the ocean remains as it was. And they don't disappear in the form of a loss. They disappear in the sense of a union. only to rise again, only to appear again. If there is some entity in particular, it is the ocean. The particular diversities are not particular at all. They are just names and forms of the one fundamental entity, the ocean that waves. Arjun is unprepared to come to terms with even this factual enunciation. It is interesting because this is something that no one can sensibly dispute. What Sri Krishna is saying is no deep hidden knowledge. It is a matter of practical observation. It is something that Arjuna or anybody else can see as much as Krishna does. So there should be no gap here. There should be no incoherence in understanding. A rather smooth alignment looks sensible to happen, but that alignment just doesn't happen. What Sri Krishna is offering to Arjuna is there for everybody to see. He is telling him facts regarding the material world. Anybody can look at those facts. The tree is the fact, the ocean is the fact. All living beings are facts. Births and deaths are facts, and they can be seen. And Sri Krishna is telling something about them, but even that is something Arjuna seems reluctant to accept. That's the right word. Accept. It's not as if it is too difficult to understand. It is just that it is dangerous to accept. The problem does not lie at the level of understanding. The gap lies at the level of acceptance. So the first level of absolute reality was the level of truth, the paramarthic level. The second level was the level of facts, the vyavharik level. And then, as we said, as a testimony to the resolution of the Master's love, Krishna descends to the lowest level of being to help Arjuna. The basic level, the level of mental constructs, the level of thoughts and imaginations that do not necessarily correspond to facts. So what we are seeing in these verses, right till verse 38 of the current chapter, is an attempt by Sri Krishna to meet Arjuna where Arjuna stands. There possibly is no other way to meet the student. Arjuna is too afraid, too unwilling, and probably also too loveless to rise to Krishna's level. But to be a Krishna is to be love personified. Krishna says, if you won't rise, I will descend. If you don't come up, I will stoop. So Krishna now addresses Arjun in a language that Arjun is more willing to comprehend. You see, where is Arjun standing and what kind of language would he readily understand or accept? Arjun is standing at the level of imagination, right? Concepts. This is a concept. That person is my great-grandfather and therefore I must not attack him. Now that's not a fact, that's a concept. That's not a fact. That's not a fact in Prakriti. That's not a fact in the material universe. That if there is an elder belonging to your family, you ought not attack him. That's not a fact, but that's a concept. It's a social thing. So Arjun is standing at the level of concepts. It's a particular social conditioning that is driving Arjun and has become Arjun's center, right? Arjun is saying, I'll not fight. I'll not fight because there, the leader of the army is Bhishma, Pitama. And I cannot fight or kill my Pitama or that teacher who gave me the bow and the arrow. Again, these are concepts. These are concepts. There is nothing in Prakriti that says that you cannot do this. There is nothing factual about these things. Prakriti is amoral. Prakriti is value independent. No facts correspond to morals. Morals are human constructs. And since morals are human constructs, they keep varying from time to time and place to place. Arjun is standing at the level of human imagination. The same social conditioning we said that tells him that you should not fight this, you should not do this, you should do that, has become his very center. Look at what he is averring and arguing in favor of in chapter 1. He is talking about safeguarding the chastity of Kshatriya women. He says Kshatriya honor has to be guarded. He is talking of all the superstitious rituals that might have been in vogue at that time. So all those things have become his center. Social customs, religious superstitions, honor of the Varna, family traditions. That is the point where Arjun is operating from. I am a Kshatriya, and there is the Kshatriya code of honor. One has to live and die by that code. So Krishna says, fine. If you are talking from the Kshatriya center, let me talk to the Kshatriya. If it is from the Kshatriya center that you are talking and therefore refusing to fight, I will talk to the Kshatriya. You say you are a Kshatriya and therefore you will not fight. That's your position, Arjun, right? You say you are Kshatriya and therefore you will not fight, because as a Kshatriya, if you fight, then what happens to your women? That's your position. You say, being born in an honorable family, you have been taught to not to attack and kill your teachers and seniors, your elders. All this in the name of tradition, custom, honor, varna. So I'll catch you where you are. Let me meet you at the point where you stand. Right. So now I'm talking to the Kshatriya. Because that's what you are pretending to be right now. That's the identity you are talking from. I'll meet you there. So till verse 38, Shri Krishna is now talking to the Kshatriya. It would not have been pleasant. Certainly not. Because the aspiration of the teacher, the love of the teacher, is to raise the student to the highest point possible. It is always a setback to see that the student is not prepared to rise. Of course, out of love, the teacher will then climb down to the student's level and try to goad him, coerce him, push him, tempt him, even sometimes threaten him to climb up. The teacher will do all this out of love, but it's not going to be pleasant, because that's not the best case scenario. That's not what the teacher ever wishes for. If someone falls sick in your family, of course you tend to him, don't you? But that's not something that you had ever aspired to do, right? If someone asks you, where do you see yourself in relation to that person? I don't think you are ever going to say, I see myself as that person's caretaker. You'll never want that to happen. Though if that person actually does fall sick, out of love, you will take care. So here, Sri Krishna is taking care of the sick one. In the duty of love. But it's heart-wrenching. It's heart-wrenching for the teacher to see that despite his best efforts, the student is so loveless and faithless and so unwilling. You know, something very striking happens right after verse 38. Sri Krishna, we saw in the last session, has already started addressing Arjun's Kshatriya identity. That's some kind of a surrender. Sri Krishna is saying, you will not listen to me if I talk to you from the higher reaches of Paramarth and Vyavhar. You will not listen to me if I talk to you of the highest truth and the direct fact. You will not listen to me. So, I'm talking to you accepting that you will remain at your level. So he has already started addressing him as a Kshatriya and saying that being a Kshatriya, it is your duty to fight. So fight. But is there a level lower than even the pratibhasik level? There is no level now left to climb down to. So Sri Krishna tries, we would be beginning with verse 32 today and going right till verse 38. They are all one. That's why we'll be taking them up in a bunch. And then he says, all right, Arjun, the path of self-knowledge is not for you, because self-knowledge is about the doer. We will now move to the path of the deed. I'll now instruct you in karma. Till now I was instructing you in the karta, the doer. That's what Atmagyan is all about, right? Knowing the doer. Self-knowledge. Self-knowledge is not for you. Verse 39. Is it 39 or 38? 39. Verse 39 is just so poignant. I see Krishna kneeling down in love. Oh Parth, till now I have preached you self-knowledge. Now I'll preach you about Karmayog. I surrender, Parth. You'll not listen, Parth. You'll not mend your ways. So I'm ready to follow your ways. The instruction at the highest level bore no fruit. The instruction at the middle level remained ineffective. The instruction even at the lowest level returned empty-handed. And then Krishna says, fine, I'm not giving up. We'll now start talking in terms of what is the right action and how does the right action liberate one from grief and fear and bondage. Because action is sthul, gross, easier to appreciate, easier to come to terms with. It's visible. And when you are not prepared to look at yourself, which is the cynic you are known of self-knowledge, then probably what you want is that some external agency instructs you in do's and don'ts. You are saying that you submit, that you have no inclination to honestly look at yourself. Therefore, you want to be dependent on somebody else to supply you with do's and don'ts. And if you want that, then fine. Let's play that game. So that starts happening verse 39 onwards. So when it comes to the self, there are these three levels. And when even the bottommost level in self-knowledge proves ineffective, then do you see what the teacher is doing? He is saying, all right, if not the knowledge of the doer. Let's proceed to the field of the deed. Maybe that's where we will get some results. I assure you, no teacher likes to do that. But I also tell you that it is a mark of teacher's love, how much he is prepared to fall for the sake of the disciple. Whenever you see a so-called fallen teacher, always ask, who is it that he has fallen for? Because if he is really a teacher, it's unlikely that he would have just fallen. If you find a teacher smeared in mud and filth of all kind, before you decry him, just remember to once ask, for whose sake did he accept all this muck on his face? Because it is very unlikely that he would have just heedlessly brought himself to this condition. Surely there is a reason beyond the picture, a reason beyond what the eyes can easily see. Maybe it was necessary to accept the mud. Maybe it was necessary to expose oneself to mudslinging. So that a student sinking in some muddy quagmire could be rescued. Maybe it was the teacher's desperate attempt to rescue somebody. And when you lend your hand, your being, your effort to someone in a quicksand, there is no way you will not get mud on your face and your body. Sri Krishna too has faced this mudslinging over these particular verses, verse 30 to 38 approximately, because he is constantly telling Arjuna of his Kshatriya Dharma. So people have used these verses to say that Sri Krishna is himself promoting the Varna distinctions. See, the Bhagavad Gita is the origin from where the entire caste system gets its legitimacy. People have said this. And the verses at hand today have proven to be good cannon fodder. Very handy verses these. Because Sri Krishna is constantly, it seems, stimulating the Kshatriya center in Arjun. Arjun, you are a Kshatriya. For your honor, for your name, for your reputation, fight. So people have used these verses and said, see, Sri Krishna is himself some kind of casteist. Though varna, jati and caste are not exactly the same thing, but being discriminatory, they belong to some kind of same class. These three words. So this has been held against Krishna. This has been held against Krishna. And if you read these verses, there's nothing much in these verses. If you read these verses, this is very ordinary stuff. You'd wonder how somebody like Krishna could bring himself to utter these words. How is it possible? Look at your Kshatriya Dharma, Arjun. You should not waver, for there is nothing higher than for a Kshatriya than the right war. O Parth, only fortunate Kshatriyas get to fight this battle, which is like gates of Swarga, heaven, which are automatically obtained and opened for the one who fights these great wars. And Arjun, if you shy away and retreat from this battle, you will lose dharma, you will lose fame, and you will commit sin. Oh, this is not Krishna. This is not his language. Same teacher who was at the beginning of the same chapter talking of the absolute truth, how can he now talk of the varna and swarga and fame and sin? How can this transition happen? One has to marvel at Krishna's love. Look, Arjun, everybody will criticize you for a long time. And since you are a respectable warrior, criticism, calumny, ninda is more painful than death for you. Is this Krishna? Is this Vedant? Is this the Bhagavad Gita? For a noble warrior, death is better than loss of fame. Not only will the common men criticize you, even these Kauravas will get the right to say that you ran away from battle because you were afraid. And so now, all the people who respect you will become disrespectful towards you. When the Kauravas will declare to the entire world that Arjun ran away in fear, then even those who respect you today will lose the respect. This is how Arjun is being motivated. Cringe. But Krishna is bearing it. Krishna says, fine. If this is what you want me to do, I'm game. I'll do this. Now, you could either say Krishna has fallen, or you could say this is the peak of his love. You could see this as a fall, or you could see this as a great rise. And you must be mature enough to see that it's only when you have risen greatly that you are no more afraid to fall. But the fall is apparent, the fall is visible. The rise is inner, therefore invisible. So when the fall is seen, what is seen is the fall and nothing more. So you say, oh, see how the teacher has fallen. And Krishna has been greatly, variously, and severely criticized for these words. Not only for these words, there are other instances in the Bhagavad Gita that are cherry picked to calumnize Krishna. But these have been some of the favorite verses of the detractors. This is, see, such blatant casteism. The question is, how else to get Arjun to do the right thing? Please tell me. This is a practical situation. The fellow is not willing to listen to anything. The highest has already been told to him. And so, you see, it's ironical. Krishna is telling Arjun to defend his reputation while not caring about his own. Krishna is telling Arjun, Arjun, guard your reputation. The fact is, here, Krishna is putting his own reputation at stake. Krishna is saying, I know once this word goes out, it will be ammunition in the hands of all those who have an axe to grind against me. He knew all that. This is common sense. You and I can see that. Krishna obviously could see that. Krishna says, 2 hoots to my personal honor. I have a duty to perform and a love to defend. Nothing is higher than that. If I am to be seen till eternity, as someone who spoke in lower terms, so be it. But just so that my own name remains unblemished, my own reputation remains untouched, my own story remains free of controversy, I'm not going to retreat from my love. Are you getting it? There is no way in the student-teacher relationship that the teacher can actually perform his duty of love without stooping to the level of the student. And when the teacher will stoop, it would always seem a bit ugly. But what option does the teacher have? Even Krishna did not have an option. Even Krishna did not have an option. Whenever the teacher would bend, it would always look like, I said, a fall. Always ask, for whom is the fall? Because if the teacher is falling, the fall would not be for himself. For whom is the fall? If you see a picture in which a teacher looks fallen, always ask, who else is in the picture? There would be surely someone else for whom the teacher has fallen. Are you getting it? See, Arjuna, when your enemies will badmouth your bravery and valor and will say disgusting and insulting things, won't it be painful? Krishna, who knows very well that there is nothing in these hollow words, respect, insult. Who knows that better than Krishna? Krishna knows that, Arjuna does not. So Krishna has to meet Arjuna at the point of Arjun's knowledge. And from there, an attempt has to be made to help Arjun climb or rise. Even before you can really pull someone up, is it not important that you come close to him to hold his hand? If you don't even hold his hand, how will you pull him up? And to hold his hand, it is impractical to demand that he rises to give his hand to you. Could he rise on his own? Why would he need your hand at all? He cannot rise on his own. So you have to come down. You have to come down from your top shelves, from your respectable peaks. And you will have to run the risk of insult, humiliation, the risk of being misunderstood, the risk of being criticized. O Kaunteya, if you are killed in the war, you will attain heaven. This is not Krishna's philosophy. This is Arjun's philosophy. Krishna is using Arjun's philosophy to stimulate Arjun. O Kaunteya, if you are killed in the war, you will attain heaven. And if you are victorious, you will enjoy the kingdom of the earth. So fight. This is not Krishna's philosophy. This is not Sankhya Yoga. This is not self-knowledge. This is Lok Dharma. This is Lok Sanskriti. This is Lok Dharana. This is the social and cultural conditioning that has penetrated Arjun. Sri Krishna is now talking to Arjun in Arjun's language. Sri Krishna is now dealing with Arjun in Arjun's currency. Fight Arjun. Again, some probably, in spite of trying to bend as low as possible, still his own swabhav catches up with him. And Krishna finds that inadvertently he has again said something sublime. Even though now he wants to utter only such words that belong to the plane of Arjun. Yet, Krishna being Krishna, intermittently and inadvertently, he says something that is a bit sublime. And so this is one such verse. You should fight considering happiness and sorrow, profit and loss, victory and defeat as equal. By performing your duties in this way, sin will not touch you. And having come so far, Krishna looks at Arjun's face and finds him still unresponsive. Oh, this fellow is still deadpan. Like a doctor trying the best of treatments and still finding that the patient is not responding at all. Can you see Arjun's face? Have a mirror? Hold it. The teacher is trying his best and seeing nothing coming from the student. He says, fine. I'm giving up. Giving up not in the absolute sense. Giving up in the sense of change of track. So verse 39 he says, Parth, till now I have preached you self-knowledge. Now I'll teach you Karmayog. Self-knowledge has failed on you. It is just the beginning of a string of failures. Sri Krishna would discover that he is going to fail 17 times. And after the war, he would discover that he actually failed 18 times. Are you getting it? Now think what can happen if someone quotes one of these verses and says, this is what Krishna preaches in the Gita. 72 verses, I suppose, in chapter 2. And one can very mischievously and very comfortably pick up one particular verse and prove that Krishna is a casteist. Almost like taking a 1-minute clip out of a 72-minute video and prove anything. No? Even 1 minute is too long. How about a snapshot? How about a picture or a screenshot? Take it without knowing the context, without seeing what the whole story is about, and then happily rush to a conclusion. Even great scholars have been unkind on Krishna when it comes to these verses. Respected leaders, very popular personalities, when they have used these verses to attack Krishna or belittle the Bhagavad Gita, that kind of attempt can be made only by a person who himself has never known what it means to be a teacher, or who has never had the good fortune of being touched by a teacher. When you know what the student-teacher relationship is like, then you know that the teacher assumes all kinds of forms and displays all kinds of faces to beat the student in his own game. Because the student is one mischievous little crackpot, like a rat who won't be easily caught. Did that rhyme? The student is one mischievous little crackpot, like a rat who won't be caught. The rat is so small, but the rat would respond to the verses of a sage, would he? And if the rat is to be caught, then the sage himself needs to become somewhat of a rat, or at least a cat. Did that rhyme? If the sage remains a sage, how would the rat ever be caught? So the sage decides to become a cat. And then you say, look at him, he is actually a cat. He was pretending to be a sage. No. He has become a cat because, damn you, you are a rat. And it's only because he is a sage that he has become a cat. Getting it? You'd never say, if he is a cat, surely around somewhere there is a rat. That's the complete picture. That's what you should always ask. If he is looking in these verses or in this picture or in this incident like a cat, For sure. Nearby, we have a rat. Else, why would the sage become a cat? And practically, please tell me, how does one speak to a rat? In the language of self-knowledge? If through knowledge he cannot be caught, then he has to bear the shot. Did that rhyme? The first attempt is to catch him through knowledge, but he declines to become anything other than a rat.